Good evening to everybody. So, without any further words, I'm just going to get out of the way and let Aaron talk. My blessings and love to you all. I am Aaron. On the human plane, life is never dull. There's always something coming up. You have heard Yeshua offer an acronym, is that the correct word, for the words sinking into negativity. Sin. Some of your religions speak about sin in a very confused way, as if what they are calling sin seems to indicate something that is evil, bad, shameful. From my perspective, you are all divine, all of the essence of the divine. And everything that you express comes from that essence. But some of it is distorted. When it is distorted, we want to attend to the distortion. You are here literally to experience the distortions so you can learn how to attend to them and not sink into negativity. It really is simple. Sometimes humans do that. Barbara had a long day with her husband and other needs. It came in here having had a nap, a short nap, but tired. And then there was commotion about chairs and technology, and after she had meditated and was centered. And so she started to feel irritated, angry. And I said, you're providing me the perfect example. You are sinking into negativity. What can you do about it? Will you take care of it? I asked her, what can you do about it? And she stopped and breathed. And earlier today, she was feeling a mood of such joy, such gratitude. It was a beautiful day here in Michigan. Blue sky and lovely breeze, a bit cold, but not cold, just autumn cold. The leaves are turning, and she was feeling so thankful for the world around her and the people around her. And then, shift. So I said, how can you bring yourself back? And she just began to remember the things that she was thankful for. What are you thankful for? Is there something special that happened for you today? It can be small. Something that gave you real gratitude. Somebody that Barbara has not seen in perhaps 10 years. A woman who lived in Iowa and came here a number of times for retreats and to meet with me privately. And she wrote Barbara a letter saying, I found a crystal I want you to have. And sent, I don't know if you can see it, but this very beautiful crystal. It has magnificent light in it. So Barbara was feeling thankful. It's not about the crystal, it's about the love behind the sending of the crystal. And the crystal is beautiful energy. In some ways, you are all crystals. You all have that crystalline energy, radiant, so much light pouring off. I don't think you can see it. Will somebody hold it up close to the camera so they can see it?
It's really beautiful. Is that working?
It's a flaming crystal. But you can't see the sunlight, the rainbow lights that were coming through it with the sunlight.
Is that better?
Very beautiful. Thank you. What came into your hearts today? Barbara stood under a tree that was raining brilliant yellow leaves, and she just stood there, feeling like she was being graced by a rainbow falling on her. In her taking her husband into the pool, which she does twice a week, helping him walk in the water and so forth with the assistance of another person. And he was literally cracking jokes. He can't speak well, but he still can crack jokes. He had everybody laughing. And she was feeling so grateful for this husband. When this happens to you, your energy rises. It expands. When several people's energy expands, it fills a room with high expanded energy. You've all experienced this. The difference between being in a room with people who are glum and being in a room with people who are joyful and open-hearted, loving. It's such a beautiful place to be. You have heard me say before that all of you are volunteers who have come to help raise the vibrational frequency of the earth. The more of you that are able to do this, the higher the energy on the earth moves, aiding it in moving into a transition. A transition to literally a higher density planet. When you are sinking into negativity, contracted, filled with greed, fear, and anger, you pull everything down. I'd like you to think of a beautiful open sky, clear and cloudless, deep blue. We have a large hot air balloon. Let's not call it a hot air balloon, just a large balloon, the size of a hot air balloon, but just filled with helium. The kind of balloon that a child plays with, but big. You somehow, with some flying craft, get it up half a mile up into the sky. You hold a long string. You step out of it, you let it go from the flying craft, and it will continue to rise if it's filled with pure high energy. But imagine if we had 10,000 small weights. I'm thinking of the weights you attach to your fish hook, the sinkers that you put on. 10,000 of them stuck all around the balloon. So we quickly attach them all to the balloon, and the balloon goes boom, 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 down it goes. If you want the balloon not to sink, you have to release the weight. It's very simple. Now pause. I asked you to think of something that's brought joy to you today. Pause again and look at the weight you are carrying. What is dragging you down? Take a moment and think about it. But Barbara, as I said, she started to sink into negativity just before we started. Because she has been working all summer getting rid of everything she can in her office, cleaning it up, making it a usable space as it has not been for several years. Since about the time of Hal's stroke. Still knowing she needed to do more organizing, and now here come a stack of chairs that need to be in here. And she said, oh, but I don't want chairs in here. A stack of weights. And so one thing that she can do is to imagine in the Awakened Heart class, which is the most people sitting in here, perhaps a dozen people coming in and saying, oh, wonderful, now we have Zaffas and Zabutons, now we have chairs, there's adequate seating for this to over 15 people. Thank you. Letting go of the need to have it be this way, and just allowing the heart to be open, dropping off the weights. So pause again. Reflect for a moment on your own energy. Are you flying? Is the balloon rising? Or are you sinking or hanging low in the sky? Where are you? Where do you wish to be? Do you see some weights you can snip off? Here we go. Here's the scissors for you. Take my scissors, snip off the weights. Feel each one fall away. Don't need this one. Don't need that one. Maybe I still need this one. I'm not ready to cut this one. Okay, but I can cut these. The balloon is going up a little bit. Feels better. More space, more ease, more joy. Rising, rising. And then there's a phone call saying this or that, and boom, down it goes again, sinking into negativity. The first thing Barbara saw this morning when she sat up in bed and took a look at her, she stretched a bit. She had not yet meditated. Excuse me, she had meditated. And then she sat up to get out of bed, and there was an email from somebody living in the house saying the upstairs shower was leaking badly. Oh, wait. Oh no, I have such a full day and I have to leave town on Friday for the weekend. And what am I going to do and how will I fix it? Oh, down goes the balloon. Sinking, sinking. So she wisely just sat and meditated for a few minutes. She said, maybe it's an easy fix. I have a good friend who knows about such things. I'll ask him if he can come and look. Yes, he was happy to come and look. And we're told he simply used a wrench and tightened something. Gone. Life is going to keep throwing leaky pipes at you. It's going to keep throwing achy joints at you. It's going to keep throwing rainstorms at you. Because you are here to learn how to relate to these with kindness and ease, and not get caught and sink the boat, so to speak. I'd like you to remember that this is why you came. If you wanted to live to experience an environment in which there was never any negative catalyst, you would not have come into this heavy density earth. Being here serves two purposes. One, as I mentioned, is to raise the vibration of the earth and help it, the whole earth, this planet itself, move into a higher density, become a fourth density planet. One is to help yourselves, that each time you remember to drop off this weight, you come up higher, open out higher. And so all of you are young. That means that somewhere along the line, if the youngest of you are 15 or so, then in at least 85 years or so, you're going to transition. 90 years, you're going to transition out of this present body. People have an idea, I want to go to a heavenly realm. Or as meditators, you meditate, feeling you want to experience the unconditioned, to live in the bliss of the unconditioned. How can you move into a heavenly realm? How can you experience that kind of bliss when you're walking around laden down with weights? So this lifetime, it gives you the opportunity to practice watching how the weight grabs hold and then say, no, come on, release. And just keep letting it go. And will it come back? Of course, because that's the human experience. But as you've already seen in your lives, when you practice with a certain kind of catalyst, bringing more loving kindness to it, it clamps on much more lightly, just grabbing hold of a little thread and not the whole garment. It doesn't pull you down anymore. You just go, let it go. You can do this. And if enough of you work at this, it will bring enormous benefits to you and to all sentient beings and to the earth. I'd like to challenge you now, each of you, to think of one repetitive catalyst that grabs you and pulls you down. Just think of something. Think of it as you're out walking in the meadow and suddenly see this big snake or rat or some other creature that is uncomfortable for you coming toward you. Oh no, here it comes. Watch what happens in your body. Where do you contract? How do you relate to this catalyst habitually? Oh no, not this. Yes, here I come. Oh no, here I come. Perhaps one can stop and breathe. Just opening your heart and saying, oh, you again. That old, come, sit by my fire, have tea. Or perhaps just thank you for coming to remind me to keep my heart open. Can you feel the way it changes your energy if you don't go into, oh no, feel that. Put your hands this way and feel it, how it contracts you. Can you feel it? Oh no. So, did you perhaps contract about that? Oh no, this is interrupting my Aaron's talk and it's not what I wanted. Was there a little contraction about that for anyone? Yes, no. So was there a little contraction? Now with this disturbance with the dog, was there a little contraction? Yes, no. No, most of you saying no, but perhaps for some of you a little. Let's say it was something more severe. Whatever the snake is for you, where in your body does it contract? Barbara noticed when she was driving to Oakwood, driving for 2 or 3 hours in the car, on a highway with minor, not severe traffic, minor traffic. Holding the steering wheel, driving. And she noticed the tension in her body, especially in her arms and shoulders. After several hours, her shoulders were very sore. By the time it was time to change drivers halfway there, her shoulders were sore, her arms were sore, and she sat for the next 2 or 3 hours reflecting on why am I holding all this tension? She began to see a pattern. How, especially for the past 2 years, because it was not a pattern she had strongly before that, but the past 2 years with house stroke, how she is driving everything, watching, trying to keep straight on the road, in control. How she's been building this up on her body. Whenever anything comes along that throws mud on the side of our car, she tenses up. Whenever anything comes along, horn honking behind her, she tenses up. Whenever the traffic slows down to 10 miles an hour, she tenses up. These are metaphors, of course. Whatever life is bringing her, that she is not fully in control of, she tenses up. And it's all held on her shoulders. So she's been practicing these few weeks since that drive to Oakwood. Anytime she feels something pushing at her and the impulse to push back, thank you, thank you. And watching her energy, working with the practice of clear comprehension, working with the practice of clear comprehension. What is my highest intention? Opening my heart to myself, to the world. My highest intention is to support high energy, to support love, not to sink into negativity, and not to condemn herself when she is sinking into negativity, just to say, okay, I am the human. This is how it is. Interruptions. I don't want interruptions. I want a smooth talk. What is an interruption? Is it an interruption if you don't view it as an interruption, but just as a gift? Thank you. Thank you. So much that comes into your lives is what the brain says, no, I don't want this. But what is it really? It's just the outflow of this heavy density plant and of conditions coming to you. And it wouldn't come to you and knock on you and say, hey, listen up. I'm out to get you. I'm a snake. If you were not inviting it in some way. I want to say this very carefully, because people misconstrue this idea and think if they have an illness, oh, I must have invited it. Why am I inviting a stomach virus, cancer, a broken leg? Why am I doing that? And then they become very harsh with themselves. It's not that you're inviting this in that kind of a way. Not saying, oh, yes, I think I'd like to experience a broken leg. It's more, you're saying, I still am closing up and sinking into negativity, and I invite some kind of catalyst. I will live with that catalyst, work with that catalyst. Here is where you have a choice. When you begin to see what you are doing, you can start to put out to the universe, yes, I do choose to learn. It's important to me to learn, and I understand that I need certain catalysts to learn, but I choose it to be a mild catalyst because I'm willing to pay attention. So I don't need to be bashed over the head with a 4x4. Just a little book with a twig in it. Hey, pay attention. Still, the heavy catalysts may come because you were all choosing to resolve old karma. And part of that old karma are these heavy catalysts. Barbara has seen past lifetimes with Hal, understands that the two of them have cleared a lot of karma in this lifetime. Her intention is to finish it. One of the things she's been gifted to do now is to take care of Hal. It's an opportunity for Barbara to practice unconditional giving and generosity, and to watch any contraction that comes up and says, no, I'm too tired, I can't do it, I don't want that. And just say, okay, I will work with it. But also to learn how to do this in a balanced way. So she continues to take care of herself too. Okay, I'll do it. Can you see how that can come from a negative place? I'll do it. That's not what's asked for. One is not asked to martyr oneself, but to treat every being, including oneself, with love. So Barbara has been practicing for this past 20 months, learning how to find this balance. As soon as she finds herself sinking into negativity, getting caught in negative stories, pushing away anger and not looking deeply at the emotions and body as they are. As soon as she experiences that, she sees she's separating herself. So she has the extremes of meditating and coming into a blissful place where the body dissolves, the ego dissolves, and a little bit of grasping. I want to stay here. It's so lovely. Because when she comes out of the meditation, she has to pick up and take care of a dozen different things, none of which she wants to have to take care of. Thank you. Thank you, teacher. And opening the heart to the self. Consider when you are asked to carry something, invited to carry something that you don't really want to carry. The various ways you might say thank you. Ask yourself, in what way is the, say, balancing of old karma? In what ways am I offered the opportunity here to bring a service to the whole world? By bringing love in to this kind of situation. Because there are millions of people in the world experiencing what I am experiencing. And each time I can greet this experience with a bit more love, I help make it more possible for everybody. The balloons are all tied together. If yours is weighted down, it's pulling down all the others. If yours is flying free and soaring, it helps to lift to the others even when they have weights on. This earth plane really is miraculous. It gives you such a wonderful experience, such a wonderful opportunity to experience just what you need to experience for growth. Are you going to continue to sink into negativity? Absolutely. That's part of being you. Are you going to recognize that faster and snip off some of the weights sooner? Yes. If you are mindful and keep in mind your intention. In the Dharma Path class, we've been looking at what I call the path of sacred darkness. This follows the year 1 of the program, Path of Clear Light. And now in year 2, we're looking at Path of Sacred Darkness. The sacred darkness is essentially those places that have pulled you in. I don't want this, I don't want that. Led you into contraction and sinking. And then had you trying to bargain with it. If I do this or do that, will it go away? Using Barbara again as an example. Somewhere, perhaps a year ago, partway into this journey with Hal. She was thinking, if I get it all right and take care of Hal just with 100% love and learn to take care of myself too, and don't complain and find real joy in the present situation, will it go away? Will he suddenly get up from his bed and be better? It doesn't work that way. You can't do it with bargain. If I do this, can I make that happen? You simply do it with love. Taking care of whatever needs your care. It will differ for each of you. Under these, I don't think you can see it on Barbara's desk behind her. Yes, you can. Underneath this is Barbara's pile of bills. I don't want to have to pay the bills. It's less about the money than the aggravation. I don't like to file, etc. Sound familiar? Last night she thought she would watch the last few innings of the World Series. She's not a big baseball fan, but she, after class, was going to have a late dinner and wanted to settle down and relax in front of the TV. Hal's the one who always ran the TV. Barbara has zero idea how to run the TV. So she was frustrated. It took her half an hour. She flipped through 150 channels. No World Series. Then she Googled World Series on television, and it said Fox News. Where is Fox News? She found it on her computer. She had to learn something new. She had to find out how to stream it from her computer onto her television. And at one level, she was saying, I don't want this. I just want to sit down and watch the ball game and eat my dinner, which by now was cold. I don't want this. She had the wisdom to just stop. Start over. She took her dinner back into the kitchen to put in the microwave when she was ready to eat it. She sat in front of the TV and the computer and she said, thank you. Thank you for this technology that makes it possible to watch a ball game that's being played 1,000 miles away. Thank you. Now, she's not a baseball fan. She really didn't care about the ball game. It simply became big because she couldn't do it. So, thank you. Thank you. She meditated for 10 minutes. Just looking at the TV and the computer, opening her heart. And then she read the instructions again. And it worked. And then she put her dinner in the microwave and she sat down and watched the last few innings of the ball game. My point here is that these situations will come 100 times a week, 1,000 times a week. Can you look at it as the balloon that you are sinking into negativity? I do not choose to sink into negativity. I choose to float, to arise. And ask yourself how you can respond differently. What is weighing you down? So yes, at some point, each of you is going to transition. Everything that you have learned will come with you. Everything that you have not learned will also come with you as weights to drag you down. You feel you would like to be in a heavenly realm. You're not going to be there automatically just because your body has transitioned. You go to a retreat and you want a deep experience of bliss. It's not going to happen unless you have found how to deal with the weights that are pulling you down. And it's not so hard. It's what you came for. There is so much joy that can be experienced each time you consciously feel a weight snipped off and drop away and say, bye. And know that you really don't have to deal with that weight again. It's done. I know each of you have experienced this in your own ways. Why are you holding on? We've been talking about this, as I said, in the Dharma Path class. The way that holding on to the weight protects you from looking at your deepest fears. I can't tell you what those fears are. They're different for each of you. But whatever the fear may be, You are probably using a negative thought, negative catalyst, going into a place of what seems to be darkness and manipulating the darkness to avoid going deeper into the heart of darkness and saying what their real fear is about. I spoke to somebody last year who was caught in one of the bad wildfires in California. She said to me, knowing that they had to evacuate now, knowing that lives were at stake, she began looking around her house and saying, what can I not do without? What do I need to take with me? Mourning the loss of that photograph, this chair, that painting. What will happen? My home? It was possible to contemplate the loss of things. And she saw later, she said, that it protected her from looking at the fear of this fire could kill me. Once I get in my car and start down the road, I may not make it. She actually delayed her evacuation by looking around her house for several minutes at what had to go with her, rather than just going. And when she got in the car, she found she was shaking. And she saw how staying in the house looking for what shall I take became a way of avoiding I could die. This is an extreme example, of course, but not so extreme. Somebody perhaps is angry at you and you put off a conversation with them, find other things to talk about, other things to do. When you deeply approach it, you see how afraid you are of not pleasing people, how that terrifies you. And so having to say no to somebody is so uncomfortable. That's one example. Barbara with a stack of bills there on the desk. And she pays them. She's up to date on them, more or less. But certainly there's no ease in doing it. She sees the anger. And she's been looking at the fact that somehow through this life, she's mostly escaped the chore of having to manage the money, because Hal didn't. She was aware of it. She participated with Hal in taking care of it. She often filed things later. But she turned to him and trusted him. He was a financial analyst. She trusted him. He said, I'll take care of it. She said, good, you take care of it. Seeing the anger. I don't want to have to take care of this. I don't want this messy side of being human. Does it sound familiar to some of you? Yes, there's a messy side to being human. I'd like each of you to look for yourselves at what that messy side is. The snake or rat in the grass, the thing that's coming at you. To watch how you relate to it, first of all. Second, to ask, why, let me phrase it differently. If I get caught up with fighting with this snake and trying to control this snake, so that I'm constantly doing some kind of a dance to try to avoid or control the snake, what does it protect me from? What if the snake bites me? What would that feel like? I'm not suggesting you go out and find a poisonous snake and say, bite me. But at a certain level, we do have to let ourselves deeply experience that which we are terrified of, with an open heart, and only when you are ready, not prematurely, to try to force yourself. I should, I must. That's just creating a different kind of catalyst. Coming into the place of the loving heart, I return to where I started. You are all light. You are all love. The balloon that you are will rise, ascend to the heavens. It has no darkness in it, except for what you have latched onto you. Why are you holding it? Are you ready to let it go? Thank you, Catalyst. Thank you. And now I will just sit and be present with you. Barbara has long been terrified of spiders all her life, without going to any reasons for it. Once, some years ago, 20 years ago perhaps, on a retreat, she was staying in a place where there were not excessive spiders, but certainly plenty of spiders, including some that were quite large, the size of 2 inches across. And sometimes she would be sitting and meditating and feel something crawling on her leg and shudder. Sometimes it was a spider, sometimes it was a ladybug. Who knew what it would be? Her eyes were closed. So she asked herself to allow herself to feel something crawling over her without impetuously sweeping it away or saying, no, not that, and even trying to gently lift it away. Just feel it crawling on her. Thank you, visitor. Not knowing what the visitor was. Thank you, visitor. Thank you. Thank you. So she was sitting one day and meditating in a very deep meditation when she felt something brushing her leg. A bit bigger than the usual small spider or ladybug. She startled. She decided, she committed to keep her eyes closed and just meditate with it. Touching, 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 touching. She sat for about 20 minutes. Feeling this continue, it stopped moving and it was just resting in one spot on her lap. Shorts on. It was on her bare leg above her knee. To hold space for it, she had to go into this place of darkness, this place of the human that doesn't have control, that can't keep itself safe, that cannot live forever, that's eventually going to die, that can be attacked, that can be destroyed, to make peace with that. She had been in a very blissful meditation before this touching started. Then, about a half an hour of working with a strong catalyst, tears were coming down. She was shaking. But finally, a lot of it released. A deep sense of peace. I am not at war with anything in the world. This body is finite. It will dissolve. The essence of me will not dissolve. That's essence of love, in which I am part of everything, that everything continues, even when this body goes. She meditated on for another 10 minutes at peace. I'm laughing. Banner is restless tonight and is chewing on Deja's shoe. He's such a good dog most of the time, but we do ask a lot of him.
She was just too tempting.
She finally opened her eyes. And there beside her was the present collie of that day, Prince. Just appearance just like Banner, with his tail resting over her lap. No big spider, just the tail. So she thought to herself, I've done it. I'm never going to be afraid of spiders again. This was a month-long self-retreat. A day or two later, as she was sitting, she felt something moving on her leg. Trembling. Is it a spider? She opened her eyes, and it was a big spider. She decided she had to just sit and look at it. She did some meditation with it. She was trembling. She thought to herself, I thought I was done with this. This new reflection was the reality. The human is probably never done with it. Even the fully enlightened human will experience pain and some aversion to the pain. Even for the Buddha, pain was not pleasant. Cherishing each and every life form in the world, which has to experience that which does not want to experience, and can learn to do it without sinking into negativity. So this is my challenge to you. I see I've been talking for 58 minutes, aiming for an hour, so it's probably time to stop. We apologize for the distractions. We hope you appreciated the distractions. I can learn from them. Maybe next time we'll get Banner to stand on his hind paws and bark and dance. My love to you all. I perform a good deed for somebody, but I am the only one that knows of the deed. Does it spread just as much light whether I tell the person for whom I performed the deed about it or not? Now, this is a complex question. There are different types of light and energy that will come forth, and different types of weights that will come forth. If you perform the deed and just let it go for it. Whether everybody knows about it or nobody knows about it, it will give a lot of light and energy. If you contract and say, does everybody know? Does anybody know? That's a weight hanging on the deed. If you feel I should let the person for whom I did the deed know that I did it, that's a weight hanging on the deed. If you say to yourself, I should be able to offer the good deed without needing approval or praise, that's a weight hanging on that I should. With each of these weights, I should, compassion for this human slips the weight. I don't need approval, but I see the need in me for approval. I will meditate with that and work with it and learn to cherish myself more so I don't need approval. Snip, snip, weight gone. So it's not about whether somebody knows about the deed. The question is, contraction will come up regardless of what you do. How do you handle the contraction? The deed carries light and what drags it down, what allows it to soar. And if it is dragged down, probably the doing of that deed and the pulling it down is exactly what you needed to experience in order to learn. Let me read one more line here. My intention is to inspire others to perform good deeds for others. Well, how do you do that without telling everybody about it? And can the telling everybody about it be done without any need for approval? If it comes from a pure place, then you tell. But for most of you, it's not going to come from 100% pure place. Instead of aiming for perfection, simply consider your highest intentions and do the best you can with it. And I don't want to say forgive yourself, because that implies blaming yourself, but simply cherish yourself for your high intention and let it go. Something that's very important here is to recognize that for every action that comes with even a small bit of ego, there's going to be subtle distortion. You may see the distortion, others may see it. That action given by others will carry some distortion. You may see it, they may see it, or not. Thank you, teacher. It's partly about what you do. Yes, if somebody is starving and you give them food, that's very kind and generous. But if you give them food looking for something in return, then there's some subtle karma there. It's a weight. It doesn't soar as high. But it's fine that it doesn't soar as high. The giving them food is not what is meant to soar high and hold high energy, although it may, a feeling of deep compassion. But rather watching the self, thinking, did I do this right? Is this okay? And then investigating this feeling and releasing it with compassion for the self, then the bloom lifts up. If everybody on this earth could have mostly compassion for themselves and others, especially to have compassion when there is a feeling of self-blame or blame of others, everything would soar. After the loss of a loved one, how can one manage the fear that comes up? The loss of a loved one is a very painful experience. We will always experience such loss. Everything is impermanent and always changing. There will be loss. With a loss, it's very logical that fear will come up. The question is not so much how to stop the fear, but how to relate it compassionately to the fear. If one says, I shouldn't feel fear, that's not compassionate and that's not honest. I do feel fear. I should not. It's not a useful thought, and yet it comes up. Compassion for the human that cannot hold on to what it wants, that will lose what it wants, will lose what it loves. One is constantly being asked to let go. Have you ever sat down at a table with a very delicious treat, looked at it and said, oh, that looks so good, but it was only a small portion? And then you ate it, but you couldn't really enjoy eating it because there was the constant thought, it's half gone, it's almost gone. How can I of it. But if that person is able to sit down, look at it and say, I see the grasping. This looks so good and I want more of it. Aware of the fear that my needs will not be met. Aware of feeling that my needs are often not met. Aware of feeling grief, sadness, anger, that my needs seem not always to be met. I cherish myself and I hold out my hands and invite that what comes to me will be supportive and loving. And I am grateful for what comes to me. And allow yourself really to feel the gratitude. To feel the gratitude for the life of that one who is no longer present. To feel the joy of time spent with that person, loving and knowing that person. When you can open deeply into that love, that shifts the fear. It helps you to touch on the causes of the fear. The human who feels its needs won't be met. To touch on what I would say, neediness of that human. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. All humans are needy. But to really open your heart to the human condition. That whatever we get, it never seems to be enough. This can be enormously healing. And as you understand this, it can shift into a readiness to let go of the armoring again and venture out and allow yourself to love and be loved again. So often, of losing more loved ones. Let me say that I am sorry for your loss. Can I talk more about not sinking into negativity, but going into the heart of darkness? Can you talk more about how to work with the deeper fears and avoidance patterns? Thank you. Give me a moment. I think the most important primary step is to acknowledge, I'm pulling for a little bit further, is to acknowledge there are fears. There is avoidance. Instead of denigrating oneself because of that, to know, I am human, and like all humans, there are fears, there are needs. Feeling of the possibility of compassion for oneself leads you to the possibility of compassion for all humans. When you cannot have compassion for yourself, you can't have it for others. It's important not to force your way into that heart of darkness before you're ready. Much more valuable to note the experience of fear and how it feels in the body, how it feels right there to feel fear, to feel sadness without knowing what it's about. Ask right here within this fear, can I simply hold it like this? Can I simply hold it out? Hello, fear. The spider. Just holding it. Then very gently, maybe over a period of weeks or even months, beginning to ask, what is this fear? And a more important question, What does this fear protect me from? If I was not feeling this more immediate fear, like fear of loss in relationship, fear of loss of control, fear of pain. If I was not feeling this kind of fear, what might I be experiencing? Then see where it takes a much more subtle and deeper level, always very gently moving, never with force, never trying to get at something, but really just holding your heart for the highest good of all beings. I invite myself to see more deeply, and again, more deeply. In this way, you allow it to progress naturally, rather than with the force of an ego trying to fix. I'm happy to speak more about this, but perhaps this is enough, and we can open the floor to other questions or questions about my answer. It doesn't, you don't, let me start over. Trying to give it a name is a way of trying to control it. If instead you simply note contraction, a big name like sorrow or fear or confusion, and knowing that that is going to have many appendages. But right now, what is predominant in the experience? Contracting. Breathing in, I am aware of the contraction. Breathing out, I hold space for the contraction. I invite myself to simply experience this contraction without trying to fix it, and see what is revealed as I'm present with it. It may take a moment, it may take an hour, it may take weeks, but as you stay with it, it begins to reveal itself at a much deeper level. As soon as you start trying to figure it out, that's just the ego wanting to control it.
That's my problem then.
That's everybody's problem, but it's not a problem. It's just a learning situation. This is what people are habituated to do. This is why we have meditation retreats, and we teach people the process of being present with a primary object, watching something become predominant, and it being with that new predominant object and watching the way it changes or dissolves. Not following it to try to control it, but as it changes, coming back to the breath or the primary object. And we keep doing that, and gradually the practice becomes strong to watch a new predominant object with an open-hearted, what is it? A kind of curiosity rather than, uh-oh, here's another one to control. So the Vipassana practice is priceless in this case. This is what gives us freedom. But the ego can't do it. It has to come from a place of meditation, from a place of the loving heart.
I need practice.
You can do it.
I need practice.
You can do it. We're teaching a class right now, the Awakened Heart class. We've just started in September. And it's based on a book that I channeled in, I guess, early 1990s, 25 years ago. There's nothing different that I'm teaching now than I was teaching 25 years ago. The same question. How do I live with love? And learning the tools, like meditation and mindfulness. Learning to know the experience of the compassion, of the compassionate heart, and how to rest in that compassionate heart. Learning to know the experience of the true self, the awakened self, which is right here with the ego that's going crazy. Where would that awakened self go? It's always here, getting to know it, learning how to rest in it. This is it. I can't give you any shortcuts. Only if you are sincere and willing to practice, you will learn these things because this is what you came to learn, and you did not come to fail. But no, it's not easy. If it were easy, you'd all already be enlightened. I think the support of like-minded friends is very helpful. People you can talk to about it, and instead of them saying, "Oh, you're an idiot, why didn't you do this?" they just say, "Oh, I really feel for you. That must have been hard." And trust you to work it out. You don't need people who will compound your own self-negativity. In fencing or other martial arts, you have to slip inside. To slip inside your opponent's space, you have to become vulnerable. This is the same vulnerability that you were speaking of. A perfect example, Jim. A beautiful example. Yes. Because when you slip inside, turn your foil and slip inside, you've opened yourself. You've let go of the armor. And at that moment, you and the opponent are one. This is why with two fencers who are totally equally matched in skill, and both fencing from a place, an egoless place, there's never a winner. I've fenced in that way for hours until we both stopped and said, we need a break. There was a great joy. It was like sharing deep places of vulnerability and connection to fence in that way. Not seeking a winner, but each inviting the other to open a little bit more and a little bit more. Because the more you allow yourself to be vulnerable, the more the other can slip inside. I've always loved fencing. It's a wonderful skill. If we had the means to do it, we could include a fencing class as part of the Vipassana retreat. Something you can do that's an interesting exercise. Hang a ball like a baseball. Not a very soft ball, but not something too hard. A tennis ball could do, but a baseball is probably a bit better. Wrap it with string and hang it from a tree limb. Swing it. Let it swing out and feel it coming back. Before it hits you, just gently, you don't need a fencing saber or foil. Just gently take your arm and push it aside. Divert it. As soon as you push it out, it swings in another way. And if you're right under where it's hung, it will come back to you. You divert it again. See how long you can keep it going. Feeling the experience of it's coming toward you, even hitting you. Touching. And then gently releasing it, sending it out again, feeling the openness and how deeply you connect with this ball. It's, at a certain point, it seems like a dance. And you and the ball become one. You know exactly what the ball is going to do, how it feels. You become the ball, seeking yourself again. Moving aside and coming back, moving aside and coming back. I know sense of self kind of evaporated. It's a very lovely practice. I hope I've excited some of you to try this. I wish you a good night. I wish you joy as you practice not sinking into negativity. Don't try too hard, rather dance with it. The sinking into negativity, that's just another ball swinging on a string. Just diverting it, knowing it's going to come around and strike out for you again. I choose not to sink into negativity. I will embrace the various catalysts that come pounding at me. If one ball becomes easy, try it with 2 balls or 3. I mean this. Try it. If it calls to you at all, try it. I think you'll enjoy it. My love to you all. Thank you for allowing me to be with you tonight. There's a song that Barbara has sung at the Casa, and I will not try to sing it because I cannot carry a tune that Barbara's ears have never heard. But the words are, give me joy in my heart, keep me praising. Give me joy in my heart, I pray. Give me joy in my heart, keep me praising. Keep me praising till the end of day. Give me thanks in my heart. Give me peace in my heart. Give me love in my heart. As many verses as you wish. Give me joy in my heart. Give me thanks. Give me gratitude in my heart. Keep me praising. I think this is a wonderful thing to remember. Keep me praising. No matter what comes. Thank you. Thank you. It's almost impossible to tense up and contract with your hands drawn together in this way. Good night to you all. I'll release the body to Barbara.